So welcome everybody to our FREAM webinar about urban manufacturing and the future of fashion. Hi, this is our second webinar within FREAM, and I'm really excited that we are so many people today. This is really great. Hello to all of you. It's great to have you with us tonight. I want to introduce myself shortly. My name is Verena Traunmüller. I am from Creative Region here in Linz in Upper Austria. And within the FREAM project, I am also working in the hub management of Hub Linz. And I also shortly want to introduce my colleagues tonight. There is Wolfgang Gumpelmeier-Mach, also from Creative Region. Wolfgang, maybe wave, hi. And then we have David Lepoff from IED in Madrid. He's located in Madrid. Hey, David, nice to have you with us. And we are the supporting team for tonight. We will make sure that our webinar is running smooth and we're gathering all your questions from the chat and addressing all your questions to our panelists and keynote speakers, which you will learn more about them in a second. First of all, I just quickly want to make sure that all of you are familiar with Zoom, especially our audience of tonight. I know it has been a very long time in quarantine and there have been a lot of digital meetups, so I'm quite sure most of the people we know will know how to use Zoom, but just to make sure everyone is familiar. If you scroll down, dear audience, in your Zoom window at the black area at the bottom, you will find different icons, such as the microphone or the video icon. And you're currently muted. That's due to the setup of the Zoom software we are using tonight. This is also good because, you know, then we have no background noises and we can ensure that everyone hears properly and we have the best audio sound in the webinar. But you also have a chat function down there and a Q&A button. So please feel free to discuss in the chat, share your opinions, raise your questions in the chat, interact with the FREAM community and also the other audience here. And in case you have any specific questions to our panelists and keynote speakers, please just use the Q&A button by simply clicking on it and type your question there and we can directly interact with you as well. Yeah, and before our keynote is starting for tonight, I also want to introduce you to FREAM because I have mentioned it so many times now, so I'm sure at least I should give you some information in it. Actually, what is FREAM? Oh, I'm sorry. Presentation runs too fast. Here we go. So FREAM is a research project that invites artists and designers to connect with scientists on common ground to rethink manufacturing process of the fashion industry. So by bundling up between designers as one part of a team and technologists or scientists as the other half of a team, we can establish co-creation teams within FREAM. And we believe that those combination of different skills, different experiences, and different backgrounds, this can really produce a super collation of ideas that can uncover great potential and great ideas on how to rethink the future of fashion. So within FREAM, we want to rethink processes, functionalities, materials, traditions, and production methods in the fashion industry and also in urban manufacturing. And our vision here is to create a better future for fashion with new aesthetics and a future of fashion that is human-centered, sustainable, and inclusive. To enable our vision and put it to reality, the FREAM project is funded by the European Union by Horizon 2020, and we are also part of the STARTS initiative program. We have 12 partners in FREAM from different fields. We have technology institutions, we have research institutions, and also network organizations. And we are all spread across different parts of Europe. So we also have one partner in Israel, but mostly we are in Europe. And we would also like where you are from. So what you just see now is a little poll popped up, and please let us know where you're from. I'm quite sure we are quite a diverse audience tonight, so just tell us in the poll you just see or write us in the chat where you're from. It's great to see you here. Also within FREAM, we can fund 20 different projects of designers and artists. And each artist's project that gets selected or awarded, we can bundle them up with our technicians and scientists from our partner organizations. And so we have those co-creation teams, which we can send on a 9-month journey of co-research and co-creation in order to develop new concepts, processes, and aesthetics for a more sustainable future of fashion. Each project within FREAM also gets funding up to 55,000 euros. And after the 9 months of co-creation, the team comes up with a prototype. So, and for the first round in our FREAM project, we have divided it to 2 rounds. And the first round started last year. We had an open call and 10 artists, which you now can see here in the slide, they got awarded. And they are currently in the co-creation project with our scientists, and they're about to finishing up in the mid of summer this year. And we have some really, really outstanding artists and projects in here. So if you want to learn more about them, you see a link in the slide. Maybe we can also post them in the chat to make it easier for you. You can click on it and then you will learn more about what our artists here in the first round are up to. And 3 of these artists are also here with us tonight, Körner, Ganit, Goldstein, and the Yokai team. They will give you tonight first-hand insights of their work at the co-creation and the projects in urban manufacturing. Our projects are also allocated to 3 different hubs, or 3 challenges as we call it also. Here in Linz, in our hub, we are focusing on additive manufacturing. Means we focus on the challenge how we can come from a 2D process to a 3D process. We also have a hub in Valencia where the challenge is about sustainable finishing of fashion and circular systems in the fashion production. Our 3rd hub is in Berlin, and this hub is focusing on discovering smart textiles and smart textiles applications. Each hub also has outstanding technology partners that offers cutting-edge technology, and our artists that got awarded and our designers can research together with the scientists in co-creation to make the best use of the technologies and develop the prototypes. So here you can see all of our partners within FREAM, and we have for the Berlin hub, we have WeAreAble Berlin as a hub manager, and also the Fraunhofer Institute in Berlin as a tech partner for the smart textiles technologies. We also have ITEX and care applications in our hub in Valencia. They are the tech partners for sustainable textile finishing technologies. And here in Linz, we work together with Profactor, Stradasys, Haratech, and EMPA as tech partners who are leading in 3D technologies, such as 3D printing and 3D scanning, and also material research. And beside our technological partners, we also have included the University of Art and Design in Linz and the IED Research and Education Center in Spain, in Madrid, as well as Consortio ACA, an innovation hub in Italy. And those are mentoring partners for our co-creation project within FREAM. We from Creative Region, we have a similar role in here. We are also hub managers of Hub Linz and facilitators to the project. And my colleague Wolfgang will give you a short input on what we are actually doing there.
Yeah, hi, please switch to the next slide. So my name is Wolfgang Gumpelmeier-Mach from Creative Region Linz and Upper Austria. And Creative Region is a one-stop shop for the creative sector. So maybe you go on with the slides. Yeah, exactly. So Creative Region is the one-stop shop for the creative sector in Linz and Upper Austria. We are based in the Tabakfabrik Linz, the old tobacco factory in Linz, which is the creative hotspot in Upper Austria. And next, please. We are connected to more than 6,000 entrepreneurs in the creative and cultural industries, and experienced in training and education and network activities for the creative industries and also for innovative companies here in the region. And our goals are to strengthen creativity as a future skill in any context, connecting industry with creatives and support the transformation from industrial regions to creative regions. And so in Reframe, we act as lead partners, as Verena already told you, and we manage the hub links, so which is from 2D to 3D, and we are also responsible for all Reframe related communication issues. So if you'd like to join our community and if you're interested in what we do, or if you want to cooperate, drop us a line on any channel, so feel free to join us.
Thank you, Wolfgang. And I also want to announce to you that in July this year, our second call of Reframe is open, meaning again, we're searching for 10 outstanding designers or artists with ideas on how to revolutionize the fashion industry. And you can apply starting from July. Each project gets funding up to 55,000 euros and the amazing chance to work in co-creation with our outstanding scientists and technologists and use cutting-edge technologies to develop new concepts, new processes for the future of fashion and urban manufacturing. And now with this information on Reframe, you can also see here again our channels where you can connect. This is our homepage, our hashtag. Please visit our LinkedIn group. You can connect here directly with our scientists and artists. And if you want to follow us on social media, you see here in the slides how we are named on the different platforms. Yeah, and for now, I'm finished with the Reframe part and I'm happy to start the keynote of tonight. And therefore, I like to really warmly welcome our moderator of tonight, Isabel Bertz. Welcome, Isabel. Isabel is leading the IED Research and Education Center in Madrid, where she and her team are developing research programs and test new learning environments at the intersection of design, fashion, craft, and technology. Isabel has a lot of experience in long-term research projects, which results in new concepts, processes, and ways of thinking and approaching hybrid context through creativity. So this woman knows what she's talking about when it comes to art and tech collaboration and research projects. And I'm very happy to hand over to you now, Isabel, to start with the keynote and the moderation of our panelists.
Yeah, thank you, Verena. I'm excited too to be here. Thank you for having me. Yeah, it's a very special occasion because today, this afternoon, we have the extraordinary occasion to have so many people from different angles, from different countries, who will join the discussion to see what is the relation between urban manufacturing and the future of fashion. We will start with the keynote, and therefore I welcome the three keynote speakers. Naomi Kempfer, she's the Creative Director of Art, Fashion and Design at Stratasys in Israel. Hi, Naomi. Christiane Lüblibert, she's the Co-Director of the Fashion and Technology at University of Art and Design in Linz in Austria. Hi, Christiane. And Guillaume Clément, R&D Engineer at Haratech GmbH in Austria. Hi, Guillaume. So, yeah, our title of the webinar is Urban Manufacturing in the Future of Fashion. And we raised three questions. The first one, how will urban manufacturing influence the future of fashion? And I would like to start with Naomi. Naomi, are you ready?
Yes.
I think you have also a presentation to share.
Okay, I will share my presentation. I hope you can hear me well.
Meanwhile, let me present you, okay? Because you have a very amazing experience. Naomi joined Stratasys in 2014 as a creative director for art, fashion, design. She's responsible for the build-up of the fashion, design, and art collaborations at the company. With the company's R&D, Naomi explores the possibilities of 3D printing cross-border in the creative disciplines. Throughout the years, she has set up numerous collections in collaboration with top artists and designers that have been presented at leading museums such as MoMA, Cooper Hewitt met in New York, Viktor and Albert in London, and the Centre Pompidou in Paris, and many more. So just one question, Naomi. Which is your role of what you do inside the FREAM project?
Can you repeat? I didn't hear.
Yeah, which is your role? Which is your responsibility in the FREAM project?
So in the FREAM project, I represent the hub of Stratasys, the project of Stratasys. We are contributing with PolyJet 3D printing with a new application of 3D printing directly on textiles, and together with Ganit, Goldstein, and Julia Körner, we are working on a project, in fact, continuing earlier designs that we have done together with these two wonderful designers, 3D printing on textile and finding new market solutions for this application.
Great. So tell us more about you. I think you're, okay.
So I work in the field of 3D printing since 17 years, since 2003. And had the chance to see the technology evolving in the domain of art, fashion, and nowadays a lot of activity in the design scope, in the fashion scope. I'm going to show maybe a small presentation on the different ideas around 3D printing in fashion and accessories, and how we take it forward. Just let me know if you can hear me well. Does it sound okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So 3D printing in fashion contains many aspects. One of them, we're talking about accessories, jewelry. Here is Jenny Wu and the papillon ring. Dove Gantrow, gold and diamond ring, also 3D printed with Stratasys technology. We are looking at different solutions, 3D printing with PolyJet on the body, sculpting on the body, through masks, through solutions of new digestive systems. This is another project by Jenny Wu using FDM technology. We always ask ourselves when we talk about fashion, how do we interface with the body? We want to understand how can we build a three-dimensional project, how can we connect to the body, how do we bring art and design to be worn by the human body. This is a project by Daniel Widrick, also one of the designers that we collaborate with. The Transcendence speaks in itself about the futuristic human. So in fashion, we also want to know how do we integrate this future technology, which is now into the future of fashion. I like to show the molecule shoes by Francis Bitonti because it expresses very well what 3D printing is about. 3D printing is in fact to be seen as a material pixels that are composed together in full color and multi-material to compose a structure. Some projects that we did in the past, this one shows how we can integrate architecture and sculpturing onto the body, playing with the transition of 2D and 3D. Together with Iris van Herpen and Neri Oxman, we show the Antozoa. With 3S4, we show here the wonderful project of the pangolin and the harmonograph, very much looking into how nature articulates a form. Since everything that we do is done with 3D generated software, we can come very close to the organic algorithms and to the biomimicry. We come very close to the understanding of how nature defines aesthetics. How do we define proportions? Almost like the idea of the perfect perfume that everybody falls in love with. Here we tell the story of the perfect view, the perfect form that everybody can identify with and find the beauty within. So this is a closer look on the pangolin armor, also taking some ideas from the pangolin animal and the harmonograph. When we work with 3S4, we noticed that when we print more massive structures onto the body, we have to understand how do we make the 3D printing more accessible, more commercial, and also more durable. We come closer, in fact, to the tactility of the textile that is underneath the print. Together with Iris van Herpen, developed the Ludi Nature, which for the first time shows our direct 3D printing on textile solution. And continuing this project towards our last fashion collection that was presented in September. This is the project of Julia Körner for the collection of the Chromorpho. This collection focuses on, as it says, the chromatics. So 3D printing with PolyJet allows us full color printing. And the morphology, which is a result of 3D printing directly on the textile. So here the textile becomes the skeleton of the dress or the jacket in this particular case. And the 3D print shows us the full color depiction. This is a project of Greta Otto in collaboration with 3S4. As you can see, also directly printed on the textile. Every cell on this dress is a little lens that plays with color transition. So when we look from one side of the dress, we see certain colors, and when we change our angle of view, the colors are changing thanks to the optical solutions that 3D printing allows us. Maybe just to explain, when we print in PolyJet, we print in a very high resolution. The droplets of the print of the photosensitive polymer are 8 micron thick. So when these are consolidated and can play with a variety of 8 cartridges of color, we can reach all the Pantone colors, including transparencies, and include a full solution of 3D print on the textile. Here's another beautiful example from Samson Shafran, showing how we integrate 3D printing on leather. So this is a little intro about different solutions that we have integrated with 3D printing on textiles. There's a lot more to see on our website on 3dprint.stratasys.com.
Yeah, thank you, Naomi. Amazing. Thank you for sharing with us your very large experience and amazing pieces, amazing work. You bring in so precise expertise in 3D printing and a very long experience also in collaborative teams. This is something we have to discuss afterwards, especially with you in the panel discussion. Okay, thank you. Let's go on with Christiane Lübeli-Bär. She is the, just let me in, what is you interested in the webinar? Everything, the panelists. Christiane Lübeli-Bär, she's the co-director of fashion and technology at the University of Art and Design at Linz in Austria. And Christiane, I don't see you, you are there? Christiane?
Sorry, my sound was off. Yes, I'm here. I see you.
Okay. Maybe that you're there. I was afraid.
No, everything's fine.
You also have a presentation to share?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you want me to share it now?
Yeah, meanwhile I present you, okay?
Yeah.
Christiane is the co-director of the Fashion and Technology Institute at the University of Art and Design at Linz. Her scientific work focuses on practice-oriented design research for the fashion industry. She focuses on digital 3D design and the virtual simulation of fashion, as well as on the effects of digital media and tools on the fashion design process. She's responsible for several national and international research projects at the interface of fashion and technology at the University of Art and Design in Linz. Christiane, your profile is so interesting now because it's like the future profile, because everybody from fashion we don't know about technology, and we will very scary about all these new technologies coming up. And so this is very interesting that you are really you are the co-founder of a department at the university who's really focused on this. So I hope you're going to share also in the panel discussion a lot of your experience. And now your question we ask for you is, what do 3D printing and high-tech opportunities mean for traditional crafts and haute couture?
Mm-hmm. Thanks for this introduction, Isabel. I'm from the Fashion and Technology Department in Linz, as Isabel said. And in fashion and technology, we have a main focus on sustainability and new technology, but also traditional technology. And also we try to think solutions which has several aspects of it, like to combine traditional with new technologies in the context of sustainability. And now I also want to emphasize in this short talk, keynote also, why is it such a new thing for fashion from the 2D to the 3D? So if you now look all on your clothes, we saw these incredible pictures from Naomi. I think it really opens up such a new dimension for fashion. But if we look at what we are actually wearing today, I see a few of you guys, but not everybody. We wear fabrics, and most of our clothes are still done with this very traditional technologies. So why is the fabric such a predominant material? The fabric was invented something like 7,000 years ago. So we have to really think that in our domain, we work since 7,000 years with somehow a renewed, but with the same material. And we sew our garments. So the fabric material has so specific characteristics. So when we wear our garments, we want that the garment does not prevent us from moving. We want to feel comfortable. But also we want to move and sit down, and we want to make sure that the garment doesn't break. So it has to be a certain strength, and that's our all characteristic. It's very difficult to find in materials. And also, as Naomi said, the garment is always in relation with the human body. So it's very important that the materials, what we put on our body, that they breathe. And these are all characteristics we find in a fabric. So often we think, oh yeah, the fashion designers, they're so old-fashioned, but we also have this limitation that we need certain characteristics because we cover the human body. But the fabric has one big thing. It's a two-dimensional material, and our body is a very complex three-dimensional body. It's not just a sphere or a cube. We have a very complex dimension, and we have to cover this three-dimensional body with a two-dimensional fabric. And for doing this over the last 400 years, so we speak about very old traditional technologies, what we are still using today. Since 400 years, we fine-tune pattern-making methods. This means we find methods to approach this two-dimensional shape to the three-dimensional body. This is one technique, but we also do the draping. We still do a lot of draping also in the fashion department, of course, also pattern making. These are our traditional methods to bring this 2D fabric, which is the predominant material, to the body. So if we now look at all the pictures from Naomi, we see that the 3D technology, the additive manufacturing, but also the 3D digital modeling is such a huge potential for our branch. This is really renewing a very traditional technology. This means the 7,000-year-old fabric and the, let's say, 400 years old pattern making methods now maybe become changed, maybe become renewed. And this is a big thing. And on the one hand, we have the additive manufacturing, but behind is always the 3D modeling, the 3D model. And also, if we work with the 3D model, also as Naomi mentioned, it's really new for us to design the garment directly on a body. The pattern making method is very abstract from the body. It's flat. We have to imagine how this looks in 3D. now we can directly three-dimensionally model a garment on the body in correlation to the body. This is really a huge potential. It also means that, for example, as Naomi said, we can not only work on the form, but also on the material. We develop, normally in tradition, we go to a fabric fair or we buy a fabric or we develop our own fabric and then we imagine the 3D form. Now we can do it together. Maybe we first develop the material and then the 3D form. This completely revolutionizes our processes. And moreover, we can take movement into correlation. We can animate 3D digital bodies or objects. In the reality, all the pattern making is for a static body. It's really for the not moving body. It's very complicated to integrate movement into a pattern making in traditional methods. So this to show that now we are, if we look at the long history from our traditional methods, now if we see that what kind of new methods come, there's such a huge potential, and this is exactly where the artists in FREAM are working on. And this is a very exciting phase. And also in our fashion department, we also have worked with 3D printing, but also with robotic. And maybe a next step of kind of 3D printing that the robot is printing. And also in the future, maybe we can print biomaterials. Maybe we can grow materials. So we can really now reinvent maybe materials with which we work since 7,000 years. And this is really a big step. And this is a big potential to renew processes, but also to renew aesthetics. The most important that these new tools will really open up a huge bowl for new aesthetics. If you always work with textile and 2D pattern or draping, you are limited. And now with these new tools, it's really opening up new aesthetics, but also a very important aspect of FREAM, it's new productions, it's new manufacturing, and it's a local manufacturing. The digital tools, it's not labor intensive as the traditional methods, and region can specialize, and this is exactly about what FREAM is. And I would stop here and look forward for the discussion.
Yes, in the meantime, if any of our guests have questions, please feel free to share them in the chat. It would be our pleasure to answer them.
Yeah, Christiane, thank you so much for your inspiring presentation. It's really a revolution, what is going on. And later on, our three four artists, because one is a duo, they will share with us their very revolutionary projects. So even if they are in the middle, because we know that the first round of FREAM is going to finish in August, and today it's like a little window we have to see what is going on behind the scenes. So it's quite interesting. So, thank you, Christiane. Amazing. Now we have Guillaume Clement. He is R&D engineer at Harotech GmbH, Austria. And for somebody like me, who is a fashion designer, an engineer is somebody like very scary. And I'm very interested how he worked with our artists. So he's actually one of the scientists of these 10 art tech teams. And Guillaume, I don't see you. I think you are there.
I'm absolutely there, yeah.
So I have also a question for you. Is this okay?
Sure.
How will the Corona crisis affect new possibilities and needs of the fashion industry?
I might then enter you with a beautiful presentation I have prepared. I will then show you what the co-creation and the creation with the artists, the technician, the scientist was, and what changed then due to the coronavirus crisis.
Okay, great.
So here you should see my presentation. Exactly. So first, I will talk about co-creation and co-research and how, and the learnings or the experiences we gathered by working with the artists from FREAM. So working together and how was working remotely work before and after COVID-19 and what it also precisely changed in between. Just to give a more precise overview, I would like to have a short mention of a company I'm working for, haute, where we are a plastics engineering company. So not only working in fashion and not only with 3D printers, because we do also vacuum casting, injection molding, which is then less in the fashion industry, and also 3D printing, of course, and 3D scanning, which is very interesting for the artists within the FREAM and that we used a lot and are still using. So we have a different approach more from an industrial point of view, and it was very interesting to meet with fashion designers, students or well-established designers since many years. We shared very different point of views and very different visions of our different jobs and of the whole way we were working together. So as the learnings that we had working with the artist, for example, before we worked at all together, we had to define a common language, which was very interesting. This is for me, as a guy working with 3D printing all the time, this is for me filament. And we're working with the artist Jeff Montes, who is also taking part in the version project. He had a different total idea of the filament. So we had to talk for hours and with many different ways, and even by build prototypes to make, to communicate, to be sure that we talk about the same thing. So it was already a very interesting approach, just to, we have same words, but different definitions. And also knowing each other, sharing the backgrounds, what we know, what we don't know, how we work and who we are, because this also is very important to have a smooth collaboration afterwards. Then when working together, it's also very important to know what are our priorities, excuse me. Do we have a very tight schedule, or do we have to publish some articles in the end of a project, or do we have to create a whole fashion collection, for example? And these are also very interesting and important to define before, and to know what has to be done when, basically, by who or how. And again, people coming from the very different fields and different culture, different habits, and so those are things that need to be clarified. And more from the technical point of view, the follow-up is also important. So to set milestones, but yet letting also allowing for the designers a lot of freedom for them to explore. And that was already, since the beginning, it was also great discovery and very important point to have something that is measurable in the end, but still leaving the most freedom possible to the artist and also to the tech partners, because we were researching together and having open outcomes. We are not totally sure what to have. So you have different tools, reporting, using messaging, writing all the time, doing Zoom calls and so on. And of course, meeting on site is very important. So here you can see how we were working with different artists at Haratesh with the printer during meeting, exchanging constantly, just to be sure that we are on the good tracks and sharing ideas, sharing visions, sharing problems, experiences, to then open find new opportunities, go the right way, go the useful way, go in new ways. Working remotely has actually been important since before the Corona crisis, because working with artists living in different parts of the world, working, etc., we had already to have solutions before. So this enabled a great mobility where the persons are living, working, and then working on the different project in different parts of the world. So working remotely, doing the test on our own, and then sharing the progress in Zoom meetings and so on was very important and useful. Yet the presence was also very important, because everyone has to touch the material, to see the machine, how they work, because there are something that are just not, you cannot write them or explain them with bare image of words. So it's also very important to be on site part of the time. And last point is that this possibility to work remotely brings also more equality to some people who could not be full-time in Austria, for example, because they live in the USA or in Australia or whatsoever. So this gives more possibilities for the whole, for more artists to work for the ReFREAM project or for other projects. And in the end, what did the COVID-19 crisis change to it? Well, on one side, we were less on site, of course, and so we could do less gatherings, yet at least we could work each one of our own, and we are trained already since we are all working remotely. And then we have to work more from home. So for example, 3D printer at home or 3D scanning, there are some solutions that exist. So the COVID crisis highlighted the possibilities that are actually maybe even more useful than we thought in the first place. And it opens new ways to virtual solutions, like for example, this is not fashion related, but having virtual exhibitions or virtual meetings like we're doing now. We were doing less, that we were doing less before, or not at all. So it's also actually giving some new ideas that can be useful afterwards when the COVID crisis is done worldwide. And just another example, but the COVID-19 urban manufacturing and having 3D printers everywhere, for example, allows you to help everyone. You have seen already everywhere where people used to produce breathing masks or face shields, as you can see here. And it's a solution that we could design and produce very quickly to provide everyone basically who would need it. And everyone was printing at their own place, everyone who had a printer, which helped together at their own scale to work together within a very broad network. That was a very beautiful example of agility and and the advantages of urban manufacturing, to have the thing not only centralized but also that everyone can do their part of the project. So that would be it for my short presentation. Thank you for attention, and see you later in the questions.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Guillaume. We do have a couple of questions here from our audience.
Sure.
So let's see. We have this could be a good question for Naomi. One question here from Sylvia. How far did you arrive in wearability with 3D printing in textiles and in pattern making? Referring to the ReFREAM project, I assume.
So today we're working on the application of direct printing on the textile. We see a lot of solutions. We do a deep study on which textiles have the best adhesion to the Vero material that we use with Polyjet. We do a lot of studies, of course, with the designers from ReFREAM and with other designers, with fashion brands. We try to understand what are the potential applications, what are the uses in the market, how can we produce the best material proof and resistance. So it's very important, of course, that these 3D prints pass rubbing tests, that they pass friction tests, that they pass all the durability needs that the high-end fashion market is insisting on, and of course that these brands want to guarantee to the consumer. We need to understand that we're really at the beginning of the development. 3D print is very high resolution, very high quality, very accurate in color definition, and we are just in the beginning and the merge of understanding the potential and the possibilities with applying the technology directly on the surface of the textile. We hope that by the end of the summer, of course, you will see the release of the projects of Ganit, Goldstein and Julia Körner. And further on the year, also a few projects that are commercially produced in a large series or a small large series that will come out to the market. We strongly believe in this technology, and we day by day discover new solutions and new applications that we can do by applying polyjet printing on textile.
Thank you, Naomi. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, David. Guillaume, congratulations for you and all the 10 art tech teams to keep on going despite the COVID. I know it's very difficult because at the end, you know, as you say, the material, you have to touch it. The artist needs to be in the, it's actually one of the conditions to be part of the FREAM project. If you are selected, that you have to be past 30% of your time in the hub, because we very much believe into a very hands-on work. And so you were flexible enough, and we as a team are flexible because now we are presenting the final presentations of the project as Ars Electronica. We are still working it out, which is this innovative online version. But for me, the COVID has changed something very crucial for us, because before, when the FREAM project was born, it was very important, but now it's very relevant because the fashion industry changed in the last weeks. And now it's under an enormous pressure, and they need new solutions. And as Christiane said, the new emerging technologies serve to make fashion also more sustainable. So this is something we are going to address now. So thank you, Guillaume. And now I have the pleasure to welcome 4 artists of the three projects which are part of the 10 winners. And okay, welcome Julia Körner. I think she's a world star already in 3D printing. Julia, you are in Los Angeles. Good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Julia. Then we have Wieser and Viktor Weichselbaumer from the Yokai duo, Yokai Studio from Linz, with an amazing project, and now they're going to present it. So welcome to you too. I don't see you too, so I think.
Hi. Hello. Hi. Nice to meet you.
Okay. And then very young and very talented and very visionary Ganit Goldstein, actually now based in London. Hello, Ganit.
Hi.
Hi. So yeah, let's start our panel discussion together. Also, the audience is invited, because now we are really going to go in depth in a common reflection. And yes, I start to do questions, and I hope you get inspired and we can activate a dialogue. Yeah, first of all, FREAM is about, like Verena said, it's about co-creation. It's a very unique initiative funded by the European community to offer a scenario for co-creation and bringing together the world of fashion and technology through art tech teams, bringing together artists and designers to very high prestigious hubs. It's so difficult to enter this hub. So it's not only that they're going to work with the scientists, which are really amazing experts, but it's also to get to use these technologies which are not on the market, like Naomi told us before. So this is a very amazing opportunity. So how is your very specific experience in the FREAM project, and how is working in a collaborative team? So I would like to start with the artists. How much impact has the collaboration with the scientists, with these very closed, with the access to these very closed labs and emerging technologies, impact your development of your project? I don't know who wants to start, Julia or?
I can start, whatever works best. I will share my screen.
Before we get into we are going to make a presentation of each of you. So, and then directly you could answer the question. So you will present us right now a bit about your project, and then we can discuss the co-creation aspect. Okay, thank you.
Yes, that sounds great. So my project is Digital Vogue between synthetic and organic processes. And I'm part of Linz, Hub Linz, and I'm in working with the technology partners Stratasys, Profactor, haute, and have consultancy with the Kunstuniversität in Linz. My background in fashion, hold on one second, please. So, sorry about that. So sorry about that.
Yes, I think you have to go back to the beginning, Julia, because there were some slides they went by.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, great.
So I have a background in architecture, and I have also worked with Naomi, with Stratasys for a really long time, and have done collaborations with Iris van Herpen, and most recently with Ruth Carter for the Black Panther. And my work kind of cross bridges between architecture, product design, and fashion design. And within Reframe, I was proposing to rethink and kind of work continuously on the pilot project, the Cite jacket, and develop the kind of digital processes further. And I collaborated with the different technology partners within the hub, which maybe also answers your question, in a sense that I worked with haute on producing several 3D scans and kind of working on the translation from 3D design to 2D to 3D, and the different digital processes which kind of combine what Christiana said before, the traditional craftsmanship, but also the advanced computational design methodologies. And with Profactor, I kind of looked at the development of new joinery methodologies, but also into kind of experiments with the polyjet technology, and developing a vast majority of experiments with 3D printing on textiles, as well as developing techniques to output new geometries and explore the kind of convergence between the design, the technology, and the various different processes, and kind of accumulate everything together. First 3 months of research, and then kind of a longer term of design process to develop a final prototype, which you will see very soon. So in terms of my experiences with the different technology partners, it was crucial, I think, in any of those processes, in any of my work, to work collaboratively and to research together and get different inputs from different fields to kind of fuse them together to a holistic project. Thank you.
Thank you, Julia. Amazing pictures. We really would look forward to see the final product. And let's.
Can we just jump in one quick? We want to try to answer some of the questions from our audience as we go along. Let's try to grab one in between here. From Miranda, she was asking, were you able to design things and produce on home printers? Do you think that this is a viable way of self-production for fashion as consumers? Who would like to answer that? Maybe Julia, do you feel like you could speak to that? Do you want me to read it to you again?
Yes, please.
So the question is, were you able to design things and produce it on home printers? Do you think this is a viable?
I can hear myself now.
Okay. Do you think this is a viable way of self-production of fashion as consumers?
So I have initially, before working with Stratasys together, my first initial developments on 3D printing on textiles were around 2017, and I did a lot of experiments with printing directly on fabric, also in-house on my desktop printer. However, there are certain limitations coming with desktop printers, and they are not necessarily comparable to the advanced technology what Stratasys has developed, where you can actually print with multicolor, and you can have a large amount of fabrics you can 3D print on. So it's a much more professional technology and than a desktop printing technique, and the results are also much finer and much more advanced. Within within ReFrame with Haratech, I also explored 3D printing with FDM technology on fabrics. And again, there were certain limitations in that process, as certain machines have smaller build platforms, so you have limits in the size of how large you can print, and also how complex the geometry essentially can be. One important fact for me was always in this research to 3D print without support material in order to not use any water or any waste material in the process. So I kind of had to work around that constraint in the geometries also. And my experiences have been really great to not only print on my own printer, but to work and collaborate with technology partners and outsource this process.
Thank you, Julia. And since we're on the topic of, you touched on sustainability, we do have another question from our audience, which is, please, can you explain more about sustainability and 3D printing in the case that, you know, if when we're talking about plastic and so on. Guillaume, do you feel you could answer that one for us? I'll read it off for you again. Please, can you explain more about sustainability and 3D printing if it is plastic?
Yeah, that's a question that is often being raised, and there are several ways of answering that question. The first one is that then 3D printing directly on fabric can bring new function to garments, I mean, or can bring already existing function to garment, but in a novel way. For example, where you need to strengthen a piece of fabric to help it hold your back straight, for example, such function, or medical functions that could be a way of dropping some extra production steps, and instead of putting a piece of aluminum along your back, then you can just 3D print a little bit of plastic, and that's could be energy and material saving. And on the other way, there's a huge push towards sustainable material, bio-based material, biodegradable materials, so that the environmental impact of such material is not as big as with the current materials. And once you have found a good material, then it needs also to fit with the right color, the right texture, the right hardness or softness. So there's still a lot to work on this project, but there are a lot of efforts and a lot of research projects and development projects in this direction towards novel materials. And also simply on the fact of, for example, using this, some fabrics are already made of plastics, and at least you could print the same plastic on it so that you could recycle the whole fabric, the whole garment at once. There will be also a possibility to go, so either towards biosourced materials and or recyclable materials. And and printing on fabric can save you other steps that will be more energy or resources consuming.
Cool, thank you, Guillaume.
Okay, thank
Es
you.
liegt in meinem Zoom, das usually die ganze Zeit neu starten. Das war ein Fehler.
Verena, you are not on mute.
Okay, so let's go on because we have our next artist. It's a duo, Yokai Studio, Michael Wieser and Viktor Weichselbaumer. How is your project going, and how is your experience in the collaborative team?
Hey guys, I'm going to show some slides as well. Let me share my screen. Okay. Yeah, hi, my name is Michael. I'm one of the two founders of Yokai Studios.
I'm Viktor.
This is my colleague Viktor, and we are working on the project Rethinking Manufacturing and the Apparel Production 4.0. I mean, I don't need to go deeper into that topic. I mean, we all know that the way of how we produce clothes nowadays is not acceptable anymore.
No.
Especially in the Western countries like Europe or North America, we are dependent on open import routes, and we don't really have know-how of how to produce garments anymore, because all of this is outsourced into low-wage countries, for example. We at Yokai Studios, we think we can target that by rising the level of automation and digitalization, and can be able to produce local in Europe again, strengthen European competitiveness, and also extend local value chains.
And develop the future of the fashion industry, how it should be, to get out of the system that we have now, because globally we won't be able to afford it anymore.
Yeah, that's true. As you can see in this animation of a urban manufacturing fully automated production line that fits into a shipping container, we focus on 3 key elements. The first element is the Loma bond, which we started to develop within the FREAM project with our partners of Profactor and Haratech, and also EMPA, where we did a lot of material testing. Our second core element is the smart pattern technology. We work on a pattern making technology where less seams are needed and where the fit of the garment is in focus. Yeah, all these elements are perfectly suited for CAD software packs and 3D scanning technologies that are currently available and already used at companies. And yeah, by combination of all these 3 elements, we want to make an urban manufacturing method accessible for everybody, and also especially for small brands or small labels. Focusing the Loma bond, it's a combination of 3D printing technology and robotics. We did a lot of testing with the Swiss Federal Laboratory of Material Testing, EMPA. We created a lot of samples. We tested 3 methods with Profactor, Haratech, and us ourselves, and then sent it to Switzerland to do tension tests, friction tests, and also comfort tests. As you can see in the charts in the middle, the above one shows that we reached military standard in tension tests in nearly every sample we tested, and the lower chart shows that we even had a higher tension test output, or a higher level of tension on some of the seams in comparison to a normal seam that's made by a sewing machine. We also did some demonstrators already. On the left side, you see a jacket where we use the Loma bond technology to join pattern pieces together. And more recently, because of the COVID-19 crisis, we thought about a concept to produce pandemic masks, and it took us only 7 days to adapt our process and our manufacturing machine to produce masks.
Yeah, production ready. We produced the first batch, which is currently in use in the Grand Garage.
Yeah. We provided the masks for a local makerspace for for the employees and the people working here. Yeah, let's shape the future not only on Fridays, guys.
Yeah, that's the idea.
Thanks for your attention.
Okay, thank you, Yokai Duo, and also congrats for your initiative to make the masks. It would be great not only to make them for the Grand Garage, but let's see how this project is growing.
Yeah.
So thank you. Let's go on with Ganit. Ganit Goldstein, how are you? And how is your project developing?
Yeah, so let me just share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, my name is Ganit. So I'm from Israel and I'm based now in London. I'm doing my MA in textiles in the soft system program, which is smart material developments. It's a new program within the Royal College of Art, and we are just 8 girls right now this year that studies the new processes of textiles. And within FREAM, my co-creation team is also the same as the other artist. So I work with Factor, Haratex, Data System, Fashion and Technology department in Linz. And we worked a few very intense months before COVID-19. So I took lots of flights in between these months before, and I really enjoyed to work together with the scientists and learn new techniques. And my project is focusing on the hybrid world of 3D printing and crafts. And I'm figuring out the making process of customized fashion designs based on 3D body scans and parametric codes, and using the technique of printing directly on fabric. And we try to really redraw the boundaries between handmade and machine-made and see how we can innovate through the techniques of crafts. And part of my topics on this 3D textile developments were combining the 4D printing process, which is shape-shifting structures that allow to change the shape through external power. And we were working on body mapping and on digital patterns, and also combining weaving techniques within the technology. And part of my inspiration is Yokai Loom, which is actually the first computer that perform automated tasks using punch cards, and to make these beautiful fabrics. So I'm using my knowledge of also ikat weaving within my studying in Tokyo University of the Arts. And I'm trying to really find this solution of combining the latest technology with traditional crafts. So this is from July 2018, and it's a full jacket that's 3D print with fibers inside the printing process. And it's all flexible. This is the process we are working these days of new tailoring production. So this is me scanned and the other haute team, which helped me. And I think it's really helping me to develop this customization once I have the physical body inside my computer, and I can really manipulate the patterns. So this is already a few examples which I worked on. So the upper part is shoulders that are 3D scanned and fit perfectly to the wearer, and it's already flexible materials, and it's also combined this craftsmanship of inserting the yarns on top or in between the flexible part, the 3D printed part. And I really believe that there is a balance and harmony between the techniques. It's not just 3D printing. It's not just to stay on the on craft techniques, but it's using the both strengths of the technology and the techniques to build something that is unique and special. And those are part of the processes and project I worked with Stratasys to make a fabric look inside the printing process. So the shoes are printed as one piece on the bottom, but on the upper part, it's printed shoes that combine also craftsmanship of shoemaking, and it's printing directly on the leather. So it's also the combination of the techniques which allow many possibilities for future productions. And in the reframe, the co-creation processes we worked on are all, this is some of the examples of my process for shape-shifting structures in ProFactor and material investigation, and really to search how to balance these words of coloring and production of customized fashion. Yeah, and I'm really excited soon to share the final prototypes, and if you have any question, you can also just contact me afterwards, and maybe we can rethink fashion together. Thank you.
Thank you, Ganit. What is very interesting in your work is like you combine and traditional techniques with very innovative digital ones. So very intriguing to see how you are developing your project. And yeah, you all focused your research in developing new processes of urban manufacturing, which are completely digital. And these new digital systems use 3D data to optimize the design, fitting, and production of garments. Cristiano, I would like to talk to you. Yeah, somehow a very new, intelligent processes from the design, from the measurement of the body, which is something that in fashion already really doesn't exist. We always start from standard sizes and standard patterns. So it's interesting that we can come back to the body actually. And then we have a whole process which is like combined through digitalization. And which are the aspects of you would highlight as innovative and also sustainable of this new model?
What I think you mean in relation to the artist now, for me, really the most innovation is the digital craft. The work, what I strongly see in Julia and in Ganit's work, in a different approach. But actually, I'm a trained tailor, and if you do a lot of tailoring craftsmanship, it's a lot of training. But if you do it with your hand or if you do it with the mouse, it both needs a lot of experience, and it's a craftsmanship. And I really see this as a huge potential to develop new aesthetics and to really reformulate potential for fashion, what you are doing in this digital craftsmanship. This can really inform fashion. And with regards to sustainability, this is a huge topic at the moment. The most important for this, for me, is always that we have to really differentiate between fashion and the fashion industry today. The fashion industry, it's a very huge, we know all the effects of fast fashion and this very difficult industry, also Michael mentioned, but we have to, this is about a business model, what we should not really continue, but we have to reformulate the fashion inside. The fashion, there was no time to really develop fashion in these very short cycles of the fashion industry. But all these, this digital craftsmanship, this is really a new information to rethink what could be fashion about. And also in relation to the body, because traditional craftsmanship, it's with the textile. And here you can do this crafting on the body and in relation to the body. And this is completely new. And for Michael, I also think this new processes to really have the whole process in 3D. And of course, maybe there is a fabric, there's this, but the main thing is in thinking in 3D. The process is thinking in 3D and not doing a 2D pattern and reimagine this in 3D. Everything is in 3D. And this is, he creates a lot of potential for design within his process. I think this is really new in this first round of FREAM.
Yeah, but also what is interesting, it's that working in completely in 3D, which is a completely new dimension, I agree, gives you more opportunities to make everything more intelligent because you use data. So like Michael told me yesterday, they can use data, they can measure, they can monitor things usually you don't are able to do it in a traditional way. So this is the real new dimension, that we can make garments more improve the wearability of garments because we used specific data we can get through this 3D technologies.
And this is an important aspect because before everything what is today is data. Before it was experience, very experienced tailors. They used their hands, how they measured the body. This was a lot of finger feeling. And today you can also rely on the data. So it's a new kind of, is somehow this very highly experienced, what we lost with this productions.
Yeah.
What we lost with the productions, now we can somehow combine this with data, and this is a complete new information for fashion.
Yeah. And relating on what you say, like the digital craftsmanship, I agree. But what is going to happen with the traditional craftsmen, crafters and techniques and tools, ancestral, which really represent the cultures of our planet? I don't know, perhaps Ganit and Julia, what do you think? Are they going to be lost?
From my side, I think that if you know the techniques by hand and you really know the physical material before you go the virtual design, it's much easier to develop it further. So there are so many unique processes that the technology allows you, and once you can combine it with the physical world, is really it can really push the boundaries.
So you believe in the combination?
Yeah.
So that the next generation of fashion makers should control both and then decide how to use them, or to use them in the process, like, you know, perhaps you can design processes which integrates, you know, different parts, like traditional ones and digital ones.
I think it's all coming together because there are processes. Once you print something, it's also crafts, because you feel it, you can manipulate the materials, and the connection could be really great to merge these words together.
Yeah. Anybody is invited to answer somehow, but I wanted to hear Julia, because I know this is a topic for her which is very important.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with Ganit on that. I think that fashion design and design in general is a collaborative effort. And I think that what within Reframe, we kind of really focus on not only having a collaborative effort between, you know, traditional craftsmanship and highly advanced technology, but we also have a collaborative effort between engineers, scientists, and people who come with different backgrounds. And so I think what this really nicely shows is that existing traditional ways of making clothes is something where, and from my own experience of working with haute couture houses in Paris, I can say that there's kind of a really fruitful ground if two very different mindsets come together and kind of work in the traditional methods and advance them through generative processes. So there's just entirely new opportunities evolving, and also entirely new work processes which come out of such collaborations. And therefore, I think I wouldn't see that the traditions are lost, but they evolve. And as we look back at the different processes which were used throughout design methods, I think these methodologies, they advance in every discipline and they evolve further. And I think that when disciplines look beyond their own, let's say when fashion designers started to collaborate with architects, then they kind of brought in an entirely new thought process of the three-dimension and thinking in the three-dimensional space, and using also architectural softwares essentially. And so I think that's what we continuously have to do. We have to look at other disciplines, and we have to kind of cross-bridge and nurture the collaborative work processes.
Yeah, absolutely, Julia. And continuing with the topic of collaboration, Naomi, you are somehow the pioneer of imagining new scenarios where designers and artists play with the most emerging technologies. You did so many collaborations. How important is really this coming together of different disciplines? And does it function it always, or something? Are there really problems? And what is your experience?
So first of all, when we have problems, this is the biggest achievement. Because if we have a problem, it means that we have a solution. And if we have a solution, it means that we have a new discovery. So if something doesn't go well, it's an opportunity for us. If there is something we cannot make, it's an opportunity for us. If the data file crashes, it's an opportunity for us. So actually the negative sides are telling us, here is something that we can improve and develop. So we're always welcoming these type of challenges. Now I forget your question, so that's another opportunity.
The importance of collaboration and your specific experience, because
exactly.
you somehow started with this. You started to bring really these two worlds together. So you were one. How do you even imagine this?
Exactly. So first of all, we don't collaborate it just with anybody. It is really important for us to meet the right artists and designers to work with. And what defines them? Defines them innovative thinking, defines them open-mindedness, defines them a capacity to communicate with us on the research and on the innovation and the design understanding. So very often I will choose to work with artists that can think out of the box, that can manipulate themselves into new territories. This is very, very critical for us. There are different ways that we work with artists and designers. Sometimes we will develop a new technique or a new material or a new solution. And I will approach the designers, I think, that are suited to work with us on finding an application or on finding an aesthetic proof of concept for what we have developed in-house. Sometimes it works also the other way around. The artists that we work with, they want to realize a certain solution, and our R&D team will have to find out what new mechanics, what new materials, what new software solutions are needed to be developed in order to realize that artwork. We've been working in this method since 6 years, and we found unbelievable valuable solutions that help us also in software development, help us find new solutions that are not necessarily in the field of art. Sometimes through art, we find solutions that are relevant for the medical field, for the automotive field, for other understanding in different markets. So art is a very beautiful vehicle because it doesn't answer to any predefined needs. It doesn't answer to some kind of a systematic market. And therefore, when we enter into the art sector, the questions are out of the box. The questions are fantastical, and they challenge us in directions that we did not have the regular customers or the regular market challenge us in their curiosities before. That's why we really love working with artists and designers, because we are challenged in new territories. The fantasy of art and design brings us to questions that other markets don't ask. And of course, very importantly, art and design focuses a lot on the aesthetic value, which sometimes, let's say, the medical solutions or the automotive solutions will not ask us about, or the existing prototyping sector would not question this. So we are really always at the cutting edge and always looking forward to discover novelties.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely, because we see the results. So amazing. Please keep there, because I would like now to speak a bit about the future. Michael and Viktor, you invented a new assembly technology, and which are the next steps? Which has to be still resolved, or which are the opportunities of research for the future? And I would also like to include in this discussion about the future, which are the next steps of research, Guillaume and Naomi.
Can I just interrupt? Sorry, everyone, for a second. Maybe before we go to the future, we do have a couple of questions here that are important before we can move on. I think we need to understand our past. So here's a particularly relevant question, just going back to the craft topic, which is, where do you draw the line between craft and ethics? I think what the person's trying to say here is when we talk about the digital world and the craft, physical realm. So craftsmanship, especially traditional craftsmanship, not only thrives on skill, but is also practiced in remote areas with limited exposure to the so-called digital world. And also traditional craft has its own stories and cultures. Where does that come in when we digitize craft? So I think this is quite interesting. When we move on to a digital format, what happens with the traditions and the stories that are passed down from generation to generation? So yeah, this is a hot topic.
Yeah, Ganit, a very interesting question. Ganit, she's actually realizing her dissertation about craftsmanship in the digital era. So perhaps could be a good question, a reflection for you.
Yeah, so I'm finishing my thesis in 2 weeks. So I'm really researching this topic of craftsmanship and new materials. And I think it's something that is, craftsmanship is a state of mind and creativity. And the connection with the materials can also be in the digital space, but in different approaches. So, for example, there are few materials that can change the shape, and I believe that those materials will bring back the craftsmanship and the connection to the materials. I think the heritage and the tradition will stay because it's part of the culture. It will just form differently. And what I'm trying to achieve is to really keep up the craft next to the computer engineering and the processes, because I think there are so much knowledge within this practices that is really essential to the new technology. And I don't think it will disappear because it's part of the culture. It will just shape differently.
Yeah. Thank you. I would like to keep on going on this discussion because it's very interesting, but we have, I don't know, Verena and Wolfgang. I would really like at least the last question with Michael, Viktor, Guillaume and Naomi, a quick look to the future and what are the next things to be resolved in your project and in your opinion?
Yeah, just to have a look in the future, we have to see these technologies that are coming up and are being combined to the world of fashion as a key chance to be able to create a future where we are able to produce clothes which can be more, how's it called? 2 seconds. So to have a more individualized fit, and this technology will be able to empower us to produce things more on demand, because in the end it's also about how we will be able to produce clothes on a way that we don't have to lose that much resources and produce masses in the beginning. And if I can combine it with a more individualized fit during a production, this is a place where we should and will have to move in this future. So I think this is one of the places where this will go to develop. And for us in our project, there's a high level of automation in our project, and I know that we will have to find ways to close the chain. So we have some steps that are able to be produced and done now with our system and the Lummerband that we are developing. But we also have to be able to come to a point where we have the combination out of cut, placing and producing in the end. And I don't think that it's going to take away the craftsmanship. I think it will be a tool that will be used by the people and will be able to enable people to produce their own designs in a more sustainable way, and also offer it to others, and to have the production back in the European area or wherever the product is needed. So I think I summed it up.
Michael, do you imagine, do you envision in the future everybody's body scanned? This is a question also from one of our guests.
I guess, I mean, of course, there's the question of data security and everything, but I think we are not the only ones working in automation of clothing production. And I think automated and integrated systems where 3D scan and production leads to a individualized garment, and I think it will be affordable to produce individualized garments. And I think yes, it's in the future we all be 3D scanned. And
yeah, but it's in the end it should be a choice. I think so. That's also important when it comes to 3D scans and data.
So a very sensitive topic when it comes to people's body data, and depends if people want that. I think they definitely will get it.
Yeah, but if I go to somebody who takes my measurements and I want a measurement thing, it's also okay if I use it really for producing that, and then don't use the data for anything else that I would use. You know, I think the advertisement thing that's happening in the back end, where they advertise whatever products in the end, is more of the problem than to being scanned and have some measurements, the connection of these systems. But yeah, I think there will be a lot of scanning and things in the future which will be integrated. Yeah.
There's a whole...
I think regarding the scans, if I may continue on that.
Yeah, sure.
Regarding the scans, we start a little bit from scratch, so it sure is going into the direction of even more using the 3D scans than to produce garments. It's still the open question to know how much it will implement itself and at which scale. If then everyone can scan themselves with a smartphone and then 3D print it at home, because everyone will have a 3D printer in 20 years, I don't know. Or maybe at a bit larger scale with fab labs in every city or in every district on each city, for example, or in a bigger scale, and then you send it with the shipping service. So it's still a very open question, but I think we are still at the very early phase of the research to see if that's even possible at a certain scale, and there needs to be research at other scales also. So we are still experimenting a lot on that, and many things have to be opened. And that's a point I would have liked to share generally about the future also of 3D printing in the fashion industry, but not only. We are still quite in an early phase, and when we see the dynamic that there is in that field regarding the technologies itself, because every year you have a new kind of 3D printer, SLA, SLS, PolyJet, FDM, etc., etc. You have new materials, you have new kinds of materials, new applications, new possibilities, and we are still now just opening that sandbox and trying to know all the things that we can do with that, and we are far from done with that research. So there are a lot of possibilities that have not been explored yet, and I think this is also a very exciting point about it, is just to share the most and to do things together to go beyond the limits of today, because tomorrow those limits will be Stone Age already. So it's a lot of exciting possibilities in many different fields, and I think this is far from being dried off.
Yeah, thank you, Guillaume. Collaborating and sharing something completely new in a sector which has been very much on an individual dimension. So we have really to rethink and to restart with new values. So this is highly exciting. Naomi, where are strategies, or where are you looking now? What's the next thing for you?
So for us, it is, of course, very interesting to see what would be the future of fashion, how we can integrate 3D printing in the future of fashion. We're working on first applications. We're already testing some market solutions. By the end of this year, we plan to come up with a produced series of 1,000 pieces. So that would be the first case for us to bring onto the market a small series or medium series collection out to the market. And we are looking into the meaning of this application for the future of fashion design.
Yeah. And there was one question from the audience before, because your printing machines are very sophisticated and very expensive. Do you imagine 3D printers from Stratasys, for home use?
So Stratasys also has the MakerBot printers, which are facilitated for the home use. We also released recently the J55, which is facilitated for the office use. So the larger printers are obviously industrial and meant for larger productions or heavier duty productions. But you will find that within the Stratasys portfolio, we cater to the total market. So every sector, depending on their needs, will be able to find their price point printer that suits their solutions.
Yes, because now we have this complete digital new design and production process. Perhaps consumers in the future can design and produce on their own?
So So this is already the case. Consumers can produce and design on their own. I think that what we do see in the market changing rapidly is the knowledge gap. We also see this in the high-end fashion brands. These are quite traditional in the way of working. And slowly and vastly, they are collecting into their scopes also talent and new designers that are knowledgeable of 3D software. This was not the case in the past, and this is something that is slowly catching up and developing. This also means that for young designers and 3D designers, there's a lot of opportunity in the fashion sector, since they do not have sufficient knowledge in this design sector.
Yeah, fashion tech meets fashion heritage. This is like a big theme for the future. I see Julia. I would like, perhaps you would like to add something to this?
Yes, I would love to add something to what Guillaume and Naomi said. In terms of like the future and how we envision it, I think we have to also remind ourselves that 3D printing is something which is already a technology which exists more than 30 years. And when Scott Crump invented the FDM technology 30 years ago, he kind of, I think, was a very fast forward thinking person. And when we look at how 3D printing has developed over the past years, it actually, I think the first kind of fashion designs 3D printed we saw already 10 years ago. And if we see how much it has developed, I think that we are now at the point where with this technology, with Stratasys, where we can 3D print directly on fabric, it changes the whole situation, because all in a sudden you have fabric between the layer of the 3D print and the body, and it makes it much more wearable. And so what I'm trying to say is that while in the, let's say in the past 10 years, most of the projects I've worked on were self-funded collaborations, I think it's the first time within WeFrame also that the European Union gives us an opportunity to have a funded research that hasn't happened before in this kind of way. And so it's the first time, and I find this very exciting and very progressive, that this kind of group of progressive thinkers and thought leaders come together to kind of rethink how these processes can be integrated. And so it's happening actually right now, and the kind of working with these processes is something which we work on right now, and they might be implemented into the industry in the future or might not, but I think it's happening right now, and I find that a very exciting moment. And I also wanted to add that it is this unique people and personalities essentially which have been pushing this for quite some time, and we have a few collected here. I think it's this it really depends on the individuals who have this kind of vision and work towards this direction to kind of advance these processes.
Yeah, absolutely. The fashion system is in the last 50 years, it's because of its calendar, there is no time for research. And this is the reason, because it also didn't involve, it involved on an industrial way, but not in the product itself, in the fashion itself, like Christiane said before. So David, I don't know if there are still questions from the audience to finish.
Yes, I think there's quite a bit of interest on the environmental side of things. The discussion has been primarily focused on technology and mixing technology with art, but I think our audience is also very concerned about environmental considerations. For example, and we could ask a double-edged question here. Cassandra is asking, what about the mass waste / carbon footprint of textiles? Is impact being addressed? So on the one side, this is one part of the question, and then another issue going back to the bio-based 3D print materials that Guillaume was talking about. What are the materials? What are the materials and the experiments that have been done so far? So perhaps we could focus a little bit on our planet and what solutions do we foresee in the research that we're doing, keeping our planet at the forefront of everything that we're doing. And of course, going back to nature, right? That all of this arises from nature, and this digital craft that we're engaging in comes from nature, and we have to keep nature in mind. Otherwise, this technology won't be necessary anymore.
Yeah, perhaps we can start with Guillaume. Actually, there's one topic about the bio-based print.
Mm-hmm. About the bio-based 3D printing materials. In the fashion area, we haven't tested them so much so far, because we are still at testing what 3D printing at all can add to fashion. So now, so far, we are experimenting with standard materials that we know well and that are easy to handle, to see what is possible, and then we'll try to fine tune it and to use more ecologically responsible materials, so bio-based or biodegradable, etc. So so far in the fashion topic, we haven't been using them so much. And more generally speaking, for 3D printing, there are already some biodegradable or biosoluble materials that exist, like PVA or PCL, for example. But it's also quite experimental still at the moment to have something that can be used on the wider scale and for quite an efficient use. From other fields, like it's also coming from injection molding, for example, that has less things to do with 3D printing and with the fashion industry. But then, since it's also polymer, we have the possibilities to make the filament to 3D print it. So it's one of the many things that are open and that we are wanting to work on through projects such as FREAM with together with the artists. So yeah, shortly to answer the question, not have done many things yet for the fashion district topic, but we are wanting to a lot.
Maybe I can add something for the fashion, for the question of sustainability. For before, I think at several points today we always heard that plastic and CO2 and that's true. And I think if you look at sustainability, it's always important that you look what you want to do with this, what you produce. So if we think of fast fashion and we think of polyester and plastic, that's not good, because we wash these garments a lot and we have the microplastic and we have huge amounts. So if we look at the projects we are developing here, it's not clothes, it's fashion. We spoke about haute couture. You would not wash a haute couture garment every week. You would not wear it every week. It's about aesthetic. It's about craft. It's about, we are in a complete different sector. And I think today what we do with 3D printing, it's not in the clothing or fast fashion. It's in a different sector. And that's why, of course, we have to research new materials. But the projects, what we see, I think there is not really a direct conflict today. And then with the CO2 footprint of the textile industry, yes, we have, I think 68% of the whole CO2 footprint is fashion and textiles. This we have to reduce. But again, I want to differentiate between fashion industry and a new fashion system. We have to reduce the amount of garments what we use, definitely, and this lower amount of garments what we produce in the future with high tech, with low tech, where we pay the people correctly. This needs to be sustainable. So the whole fashion system is now undergoing a huge revolution, and there will be the sector of high tech, and the sector which experienced is today for the plastic material. If you think in cycles, I think for a monomaterial, what we do in 3D printing, the cycles are not that bad. Cycles are in the textile where you mix cotton with wool, with polyester. These are not recyclable. But a monomaterial, what we hear, I do not say we have to in the future look at plastic, but I don't see that there is such a big concern as it's in the press today.
Yeah, I'm so sorry, Christiane, because we are running out of time. I'm receiving messages. And first of all, I have to say goodbye to Julia because she's joining now another webinar. So thank you very much, Julia, for being here, and have a nice evening in LA. Okay?
Bye.
Bye. So Verena and Wolfgang, how we go? Because we could keep on going for hours, but I guess
I would ask the 2 questions we have in the Q&A feature, and then slowly come to an end, because we also promised not to run the whole evening. So maybe there's an interesting question on from Klaus. What's your take on IP, so on intellectual property? So maybe someone would like to answer this.
Yeah, who is the one who wants this? Was it very tricky?
Okay, I think when we talk about IP, we will also see some innovation, since the platform is completely digital. It means that different designers can cooperate on one design and share their IP. In the future, the designer might not design the solution, but design a system, and the consumer will choose an iteration within a system that has been designed. So the question of IP or who owns a particular design becomes, of course, very interesting when we have different participants working on one design. Other than that, IP is, as it always is, owned by the designer, like in any other product. When it is 3D printed, it is also unique. A designer can make a series of 100 models that each is slightly different and still very unique for the same cost that it would be a complete copy. So there are a lot of very interesting possibilities here. Yeah, that's a little bit my take on the question of IP.
So what you want to say now became more flexible? Because before the ownership was something like very one, you know, like patents, it was always one who owned the whole process. And now it's a combination.
Well, I think it is more open for collaboration if different designers work on it. And also the question, of course, when we talk about customization, the consumer puts its own voice into the final product. So, of course, within the scope of manipulation that allows the customization case by case, but there becomes a more broader sense of collaboration in this. Other than that, the IP stays as it always was with the creator. But we see more solutions and more possibilities to variate. What we also see, thanks to the digital platform, a lot of open source designs. So where designers don't bother to gain on their intellectual property, but share the data, believe in free product, and share much more easily solutions on the market. I think we saw it also with the COVID case. Designers worked on solutions for masks and for shields and simply shared these designs online. The IP is not that critical. So again, case by case, the story of IP is always going to be a very interesting story, but not that different than it used to be. It remains a topic of many faces.
Okay, thank you, Naomi. David, do we have another question, or
we do?
Or do you have a question?
We have a question actually from an anonymous attendee, which is, how about the materials that can be 3D printed in the future? Will it be possible to print organic materials like cotton or other, also recycled organic materials?
Yeah, I think Naomi, it's again you or Guillaume.
So I think one of the tricky things is that 3D printing is not such a simple process. For an example, FDM works with a hot nozzle. The filament has to pass through this nozzle, transcend from a solid structure to a liquid structure, and then be applied onto a surface. Polyjet goes through an even thinner printing head. It has to have a certain viscosity. When we are talking about 3D printing materials that contain natural fiber, it's slightly romantic, since additive manufacturing is a layered technology, and when we have a layered technology, it's very, very difficult to sustain a fiber quality. So there is a slight contradiction in terms. Other than that, we do see development towards sustainability and development of filaments for FDM. We do see solutions of integrating grains and fibers also in SLS and in other technology in SLM. But again, I think when we are talking about sustainability, we need to remember 3D printing is always going to be a small series. It's not mass production. It is very customized. It is very consumer oriented. And in that sense, it generates a strong attachment between the consumer and the product, which is counter waste, or in fact, in itself, very sustainable, because what we want to have is a strong attachment between the consumer and the product, so that the product will have a long shelf life or long product life. And we're talking about small series production. This is not to be compared with mass production done in China or done in cheap textiles like we see in the main sales domain. This cannot be compared with each other. So sustainability, we have to look at the whole. We have to understand the life length of the product. We have to understand the waste that we create. And therefore, the more focus-oriented, the more niche, the more particular the product is, the less waste, in fact, that we have.
Yeah, thank you, Naomi. What is clear that we are still at the beginning, and we need much more research. And therefore, we have also the second call. So you all, audience, we are looking for the next 10 winners of next year, of the next round. And the second call will open up the 1st of July. So you already met 3 of the winners. And next week on Tuesday, we will have another webinar of the Valencia Hub, and you will meet another 4 artists. Perhaps you joined the Berlin webinar. So you have already an insight on what we are looking for and what are the topics. And we are looking forward to hear your ideas and your proposals. And hopefully you will be one of the winners of the next round. So thank you very much to all the panelists and speakers. It was amazing talking to you, and I have to finish because we really run out of time. So thank you, David. Verena, I give you the word.
Thank you, Isabel, and thanks to everybody for this very interesting discussion round and all the questions raised from our audience. I realized there were some more questions, and I think there can never be enough questions, which is great. I would like to point out to you to our LinkedIn group. You can see it here on the slide. It's called FREAM, 3D Print, Wearable Electronics, Sustainability and Fashion. Please join there, and you can directly keep the discussion going and interact with our scientists, keynote speakers, and artists from the first round. And also, Civilized Isabel, I'd like to invite you very warmly to apply for our second call starting July the 1st. You find all information on our website about FREAM. And also there you find more about the webinar from our hub in Valencia tomorrow. It is this link here, which gives you more information, and you can also sign up. So Wolfgang, maybe I can ask you to share the link also in the chat for everyone so that this is available. Great. And I want to say thank you. It was a really, really interesting webinar and a great evening, and we have recorded it. We can send it out to everyone. so you can look at it again if you need some more insights. And yeah, it was great to having you tonight here, and thank you to everyone. Have a great evening. Bye.